fully conscious shift is what I emphasized. It was what I wanted. It was where all the information is. There's very little information when you narrow down into a physical, what we would call a physical space, a manifest space where you're embodied. Very little data in that relative to when you're in waveform. So I wanted the more data. I wanted to be able to glean as much as I could, in these experiences.
You want the whole library.
Well, as much as I could hold. Yeah. And then be able to, or grow a capacity to be able to shift back into our 3D physical space, which is a very narrow, beta predominant bandwidth, and so when you take a huge amount of information and try to shove it into a pinhole, that takes some doing. And so I learned techniques to help me do that to a greater degree than I could have if I hadn't devised ways. And they were just sort of natural. They were spontaneous. It wasn't anything I had to think about. You feel when you get back, damn, I just lost that entire experience. So like, how does that happen? I did a fully conscious shift there. I experienced myself in waveform. I gathered data from 5 different fields, and I lost how is it that you lose the experience when you get back, even though it was a fully conscious shift? And you start to realize that you have to hit it just right. You have to hit the waves, the brainwave frequencies, just right to be able to prolong. Like if I shift back in to 3D physical space, when my brain waves were, say, like in delta, okay, that's going to result in a particular experience where I'm able to hold on to so much information and not, or what if I do it when they're in theta? Or how about alpha? Or how about when they're passing through beta? Yeah, no, that was the thing. I started to see that when my sleeping body was in that little moment of time where it was shifting through beta and I was coming back into that, I would lose everything. It would be gone. Just like waking up
almost
from a
like
dream.
You forgot you had an experience and it's all just evaporated.
Just like waking up from a dream and like you have no idea what was just happening. But because you are aware of the fully conscious shift out, you know that it took place. You're like, dang. So you start to look at that and how does that happen? And then how can I ensure that when I'm shifting back in, I'm in that liminal space, that threshold between alpha theta. That alpha theta is the gold, because you get back here and you're still in the liminal space, even though you're back here. So that's that space where you're waking up, there's times when you're waking up blissfully, and you're in that in-between state between wake and sleep, and you just linger there, right? It's hard to want to get up that, right? So that's the frequency bandwidth you want to hit when you're bringing the information back. And
are you trying to hold that state as well for as long as possible?
No. You're an observation point in it. And I also do not control when I re-enter. My greater being does. So if there's information that would not serve me here, or that would make my life miserable, such as more than tiny bits of awareness of those I love elsewhere, why would they let that come through to here? It would make me miserable here. It would make me want to be back with them so much. But there's other things as well. The central nervous system is prepared for these experiences. And until they're prepared to a degree enough to hold it in a fashion that won't bring the body down, or meaning be to your detriment, then no, that data can't come either. Not until the system's ready. So this has to be made ready for the additional data. And that's what the Kundalini, I feel, is all. At the base of our body system, central nervous system, is a fight-flight mechanism. So that's the first thing one of the very first things you're going to intersect with in the shift from 3D physical space into the etheric frequency bandwidth, or where most people go OBE proper, right?
That's what I've come across that myself. I haven't quite gotten out of body yet, but I know that's flight or flight system is what got activated. Almost
right.
The bodily one, not the mind one.
This gets interpreted, the fight-flight system. Here's a test. You're going to be given a test here. This test is often referred to as the old hag, the dweller on the threshold, that old witch that's trying to strangle you right there, or the entities that are, trying to whatever. It's that's your. It's not that that's what's happening. It's that you're experiencing your own central nervous system and the igniting of your fight flight system as a test to see if you can go any further without it being detrimental to you and your body. Okay.
Wow. So that's us manifest or creating that experience from our nervous system.
Always.
Wow.
Always. Reality is
It's
from the inside out.
amazing.
You know the symbol for the sun, a circle with a point dot in the middle of it, right? That point dot is us. The larger circumference, although that's a bad representation because it has no circumference, is the one, right? You can think of the one as a light. The light of the one shines through the point of us, and whatever we put on the film strip is what ends up in our life experience. So if we're opening a fear bubble in that, going into judgment, okay, the light of the one's going to shine through that and put it out here for us to experience. Same thing in an
Like a
OBE.
projection.
Yes, just like that.
It makes it seem like we're so crazy because we're doing it all. We're creating it all. We're creating our own problems almost. We got to conquer ourselves.
Yes. However, there's a lot more to ourselves than what we see here. And this is a part of what we get to also intersect with out there. Okay. Supposedly, there's also consensus areas where other souls embodied as other beings are. It's not something I can prove from my planetary level consciousness. It's just not. Okay. But I can prove myself, I can go into the point of me and end up in these larger consciousness spaces, right? And they're glean that I'm connected here to something far larger. So I can see that me is much larger than what I see here, right? When you're in that demolecularized state, that's waveform. Yeah. So as it's in play, you can think of it just like vibration. Vibration's a fine word to use. If I vibrated you, think of the grains of sand on the plate, right? If they're just on the plate and there's no vibration on the plate, it's just static and the grains of sand are just still, right? But if I shoot a vibration through that plate at a particular hertz frequency, those pieces of sand are going to begin to dance. Yeah. And they're going to form a pattern. They're going to start before they form a pattern. They're just going to dance. Waveform is when those grains of sand are just dancing. They're vibrating, but they're not vibrating into any particular shape or form yet. It's the stage between where they're just still and when they've taken on the form of whatever the hertz frequency it is that's making them dance.
Okay. So like an intermediary stage where it's just movement, basic vibration and movement. It's not sort of coherent or structured, maybe.
Right. It's just vibration itself. It's not vibration in any particular pattern yet. It's vibration itself. I could take myself into that and deeper into that and deeper into that. And in each depth, there's phenomena right there in the shift itself. And so like you have access to all of these extra data. It's not just about dematerializing here and materializing somewhere else. It's what happened along the way. So just like you being here is more than that moment you got here and the moment you're no longer here, a lot happened in that transition, right?
Yes, yes.
Right? And it's the
Yes.
part that most of us tend to leave out of our experiences. Yeah.
Well, that's true. And that's the most important part, actually, isn't it?
The
It's kind of
journey,
like
right?
it's the journey. Exactly, exactly. Now that makes sense. That's clicked to me.
Yeah. And so the journey takes you into galactic space, actually. So, and it can take you into universal space and even cosmic presence, or pure presence. But those are not wordable.
I imagine that takes a lot of practice or a lot of years or does it
Curiosity.
maybe?
The curiosity, certainly. So, like, when I was going out of body, that's what caught the bulk of my attention as waveform. So, and then I learned how to discern it from particle form. So then I could discern whether I was, when I was going out of body, whether I was just point consciousness. You feel like yourself in these experiences. If you don't take the time to look down at yourself to see if you have a body, you will just feel like you do. You know what I mean? And so, like, you'll miss out on a lot of data. I could, through being aware of myself in waveform, I could see that this was different than when I was somewhere in particle form or embodied, right? Or it just as point consciousness, right? So first, you could be point consciousness in an experience. Here I go. Here come the vibrations. I'm going out of body. All of a sudden, boom, I'm there. I'm in the etheric frequency bandwidth of my own bedroom, right? As point consciousness. I look down at myself and I have no body. I'm just sort of this point of observation in the middle of the space, and I can take in information, right? And so here's one way to be in an OBE. The next way is to be point consciousness merged in the consciousness field of someone else. I look down at myself or go over to a mirror to see, and I'm not Casey. I'm another person, right? But I still am me right there in their consciousness field. Crazy fun experience.